Hey everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm happy to have you here with me today where we are going to make some breakfasts for the week. So last weekend I shared with you, or I guess you saw it on Monday or Tuesday or something like that, but last week I shared with you that I was going to be taking some time on the weekend to do some food prep for the week. Our weekdays are really busy around here, so last week I did some lunches, which were just absolutely fantastic, made all the difference to our week. And this week we are going to do breakfasts. We are going to do some cherry, actually we're not gonna do cherry, we're gonna do baked oatmeal, but we're actually gonna do a white chocolate walnut peach baked oatmeal. This recipe comes out of my cookbook and there's lots of different suggestions in here for different flavorings you can use. So that's the one that we're gonna do today. We're gonna make a double batch of that. We're going to use my honey almond granola recipe out of my cookbook to make some granola bars. I've only done granola bars a couple of times before, so this is gonna be a little bit of an experiment and we'll see what I end up coming up with. What I thought I could also do is make a big batch of yogurt, probably later on today. And then we'll have yogurt throughout the week too to have with the granola bars, maybe with the baked oatmeal too if we want. And then we are going to do some egg bites. And I actually was inspired to do this from Rachel from 1870s Homestead, who I just adore. She made them a couple of weeks ago and she used, let me show you, these little silicone muffin, what are these called? My goodness, my brain is drawing a complete blank. Muffin cups, that's what they're called. Anyway, so I ordered some from Amazon. They're really inexpensive. I can link them for you down below if you'd like. And so I did get a couple of these and I'm going to do a couple of them with those because I only bought 24, and then I'm going to do one tray with just some sprayed olive oil. And a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was even a month ago now, I ordered this little olive oil sprayer. I don't know why I did not buy one of these a million years ago, because it's the most convenient thing for putting olive oil on everything. And I use olive oil for everything. So that's fantastic. So we're going to make those, and we're going to make feta spinach ones, but there's all different kinds of flavorings you can use. And then I'm going to make some that don't have dairy in them for Dan as well, because he doesn't do dairy. But these are so fantastic for young growing people because they have lots of protein in them. For anybody that lifts weights, I have a couple of my kids who lift weights. I have one that's a dancer. So these are awesome, just little protein bites that you can grab and go, even snack during the daytime. But for breakfast, super quick and easy breakfast. So let's get started with those. And Tim Hortons here in Canada makes them, and they're actually really good. And just a couple of them I find quite filling myself. So we're gonna make a whole bunch of those. We're gonna triple this recipe. And the recipe that I'm using as my inspiration comes from, where does it come from? Well Planted by Erin, that website. So I have never tried this particular recipe before, but it's really basic. It's kind of just like scrambled eggs cooked in muffin tins. So we're gonna get started here with our nice big bowl. The first thing we gotta do is crack a ton of eggs. And these are store-bought eggs. And I don't know if you have noticed that there's a little bit of an egg shortage happening, which often happens around Christmas time. But apparently this one is connected to avian influenza up here in British Columbia, at least with our egg farms on the coast. So eggs are a little bit harder to come by right now, and it's an unfortunate time for us because our chickens are on a little bit of a hiatus. They've just started laying again in the last couple of days, but it'll be probably 3 or 4 weeks before they really start going again. So store-bought eggs it is for us right now. So I'm tripling this recipe, so we're gonna need 3 dozen eggs. It's gonna be lots of cracking of eggs. I have stopped cracking my eggs on the side of my bowl. I don't even know when I stopped doing that. It's quite a long time ago. Just because I always get little shards of egg in my bowl when I do that, and I find when I crack them on the table, it's less likely to happen. All right. Now we have our 3 dozen eggs in our bowl, 3 cups of spinach. I'm just gonna beat my eggs up here first before I add all those. It's just easier to do without all the other ingredients in there. Okay, 3 cups of chopped spinach, 1.5 cups of feta, nice and finely mashed up there. Some black pepper, salt, 3/4 cup of milk, and whisked again. Our oven is preheated to 350 degrees. I love this sprayer so much. It's fantastic. I'll try to remember to link this particular one because I can attest to the fact that it is a good one. So we're going to divide up this mixture between these 3 trays. And because it has all of those solids in it, I'm just going to have to keep regularly mixing it when I add it in there so I don't get an uneven balance of the ingredients. Well, that is perfect as far as the measurement. So that's 10 eggs for a dozen of these bites. So now we'll pop them in the oven and then just make up a quick batch that doesn't have dairy in it for Dan. So I just rinsed out that bowl. Dan is intolerant to dairy. He's not allergic to dairy. You wouldn't want to do that if somebody had an actual allergy. You'd need to get an entirely clean bowl. Very, very clean bowl because some people can have really severe allergies. So I am going to crack 10 eggs in here, and then I'm just going to flavor it with some garlic powder, a little bit of onion powder, some basil. I don't think, I might have some more spinach because I could throw some spinach in there too. Little onion powder, put a little bit of my smoked paprika in there. That would probably taste good. Little garlic powder. Oh, actually, you know what? He wants these just straight up protein. He doesn't want to have the greens in there. So I will omit those. Okay, now we'll just set those aside and make those when our other ones are done. So this one is going to be the peach, walnut, and white chocolate. We're going to need 12 cups of oats because we are doubling this recipe. And even the single batch of this recipe makes a really big tray of baked oatmeal, and for most families probably sufficient for 2 breakfasts. We're gonna add 2 cups of chopped almonds. These are not almonds, these are walnuts. 2 cups of white chocolate chips, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and you can just throw all these in the bowl and then mix everything together. 2 cups of brown sugar, half a cup of melted butter. The peaches that we're gonna use a couple of cups of peaches, but we're gonna put those in the bottom of our pans. You can mix them right in if you want, but this way they get evenly distributed between both trays, so I'll do that in a minute. Four teaspoons of baking powder. And for sweetener, you could use maple syrup in this. You could use honey in it if you want. You could omit the chocolate chips. You can really play around with the flavor of this. I really like the cherry chocolate one, but this one's really good too. Okay, we're gonna add 8 eggs to this. So we like this with milk on top or cream. It's really tasty. Very nice filling breakfast with the fruit and all the oats in there. And then 4 cups of whole milk. And you could do this without the dairy too. You could use almond milk if you like. So now we're just going to mix this all together and then put it into our baking trays. Okay, so we have these parchment lined, which is not necessary, but I'm also going to give them a little spray of olive oil on the sides. And my plan is to freeze these because I'm going to use them later on in the week. And now we just scoop in this into here, split it between our 2 dishes here. Oh, shoot. Whoopsies. So I was planning on putting the peaches on the bottom. So I'm going to add those to the bottom of this. 1. And then this one's gonna get put in on the top. So my plan is I'm gonna freeze these uncooked, and then I will pull them out the night before we wanna use them, and then bake them in the morning. Easy peasy and so good. Kind of like having cake for breakfast, except a healthy one. Okay, so we'll just set those aside and we'll pop them down in the freezer when we're done our granola bars. Oh, those egg bites have poofed right up, so they will sink back down again once they've cooled. but they're very poofy. I'll show you when we bring them out. Okay, so for these granola bars, like I said, I'm just gonna kind of experiment with my granola recipe by adding a few extra ingredients to make them more kind of granola bar-esque and see if that works. So we have 4 cups of oats here, a cup of slivered almonds, a cup and a half of, what are these called? Puffed rice or Rice Krispies. Teaspoon of salt. I am just going to melt this half a cup of coconut oil here because it will just be much easier to mix it in. And half a cup of maple syrup and half a cup of honey. I don't have anything to scrape this with, so I'll use my finger. I'm gonna add some other seeds to this as well. Some hemp hearts, some flaxseed if I have any, maybe some pumpkin seeds. 1 sec. Okie dokie. Now we're gonna add our coconut oil, and I hope that's gonna be sufficient to kind of hold everything together. Anything else you can think of I should add to these granola bars? I wanna make them really... Granola bars? Yeah, granola bars. Energy bars? Yeah, like an energy bar type thing. I was gonna do some hemp hearts, some flaxseed.
Raisins or cranberries?
Yeah, I guess I'm just not a raisin or cranberry fan. The kids would...
Eating a bar, it's nice to have something chewy.
Sweet in there. Okay, I could add some...
Maybe some chocolate chips or cocoa.
Of course you're going to be suggesting the sweet stuff. Let's add some craisins. Just a couple. I'm just going to do a small batch to experiment first. And then, but we'll add some cranberries in there. And pumpkin seeds, because I'm thinking protein. Okay, I totally forgot that I had this. So remember when I made the breakfast cookies in a jar, which we're using all the time, by the way, all of those jarred mixes that I made, I love having. We still have quite a few left, but we're using them a lot. But I bought this stuff, this omega-3 Nutra Cleanse, it was called, but it's basically daily fiber boost. It has lots of good fiber in it, like organic ground flaxseed, psyllium husk, fenugreek seed powder, dandelion root, and burdock root powder. So it's got good stuff in it. So we'll throw a couple tablespoons of that in there too. I might need to add a little bit more. You know, I could add some peanut butter, some nut butter. Let's see what I have for nut butter here. Wow. Those egg bites are humongous. So they've already started to sink back down again. Let's add some peanut butter. This just came out of the fridge, so it's a little hard. You know, I think I might have to melt that down just a hair. Where'd my pot go? Just to be able to mix that in more easily. Do about a cup. Okay, so these were the ones that I just sprayed with oil. So let's see how easily they come out. A little stuck, but not too bad. I'm gonna leave these to sit in here for a few minutes so that the moisture can start to form. It might make it a bit easier to take them out. These ones, no problem. Just pop right out of there. So I'll definitely be using those to make these. Interestingly though, the ones that cooked in here have almost like air inside of them. They're poofier and just kind of nicer shape than these little tiny ones. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, and I'm just gonna pour all of these eggs. Actually, let's give them a quick mix. Glad I didn't add the spinach to these because when I mentioned it to Dan, he's eating basically straight up protein at this point, like carnivore style diet, which is doing wonders for him and he feels fantastic. But he's not doing a lot of greens at this point. There we go. Okay, pop those in the oven. Letting them sit in there for a minute did help a bit. So interesting that the ones in these are just not very pretty looking compared to the other ones, but they've certainly come out nicer. Give these a taste. And then we're gonna add our granola bars to here. Okay, let's add our peanut butter in here. So I'm going to make these nice and thick. Pack it down. We'll pop these in the oven and bake them until they're golden brown. Okay, so I'm going to try one of the ones that were in the olive oil and then one that were in the silicone. Look at the difference. Okay, so it's like really fluffy and airy in there. I'm not crazy about the texture of this. Yeah, not crazy about it. And definitely a bit too much salt. I don't think it really needed the salt because of the feta. So I'll omit the salt next time because these are very salty. But the feta flavor and the spinach is really nice. So I think I'm just going to keep playing around with this until I come up with a recipe that we really like, and then I'll make sure that I share that with you. I'll probably post it over on my blog. Also, I'll send it out on a newsletter too. Pretty good though. All right, our granola bars have come out of the oven. They're still really hot, so I'm going to cut them now while they're soft. You know what I wish I had done now is had the parchment paper come up the sides, because then once this cooled, I could have just lifted it out and cut them apart and broken them apart really easily. So lesson learned, I'll make sure that I do that next time. I don't know if these are gonna hold, but now I have to wait and let them cool completely before we pull them out of here. And lucky for me, it's winter in Canada, so I can just go put these out on the deck. Not entirely cooled yet, but let's try taking one out. I'm really regretting not putting the parchment paper up the sides right now. But hang on here. It's gonna work. Okay, they're not cooled quite enough yet, but it's gonna work. All right, let's give a little piece of this a try. Looks good, smells good, tastes absolutely delicious. My favorite part is the Rice Krispies, because I'm a texture person. I like crunchy bits in my food. So I am gonna keep working on this recipe until I refine it. What I need is an ingredient to help hold it together a little bit more. And I do think that using old-fashioned oats rather than quick oats, I used quick oats in these, would be better. Just the bigger pieces, I think, would be better. They're holding together fairly well. You can see they're not like, oh, one little piece fell off there, but they're not completely falling apart. And once they're totally cooled, because there's the bottom of the pan is still quite hot, I think they'll come out fairly easily, but they're not, like they wouldn't be good for putting in a bag and bringing somewhere. Totally fine for breakfast though, no problem there. So I'm happy with them, happy with the texture, happy with the crunch, happy with the size of these bars. I think these are a good size of a bar, and I could even swirl a little bit of melted chocolate over top of them just to make them a little bit more fun even. But I'm gonna work on them. So we'll be working to refine these a little bit more, along with the egg bites, which, by the way, taste much better when they're cool than when they're hot. They're actually delicious. The salt with the feta is not overpowering when they're cool. I don't know why it was when they were hot, but they taste just absolutely delicious now. So just the lack of kind of really prettiness going on with these, I don't care. I know my family's not going to care. Just to make them a little bit more kind of consistent, because they're not, as you can see, very consistent here. The ones that were just the plain egg, that's one of those, turned out fine, pretty much the same as the other ones, and they taste fine too. So I'm really happy with that. All of this food, this is going to be a couple breakfasts for us, which is great. And like I said, we'll add maybe some bacon or some yogurt or something like that to round these out, or even some sliced up fruit. But I think this is going to be perfect, and it's going to make breakfast this week a little bit easier, which is always appreciated. All right, friends, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.